Welcome to everyone for this first edition of What Now? Making Space Artist Talks with Nayana Lafond and McLeana, our curator. So glad you could all make it. We will be recording this, so I hope that anyone who's seeing this after the fact will enjoy as well. We are going to go through a couple different things this evening. We have some Zoom housekeeping very quickly. We'll talk about the participants, and then Nayana and McLeana are going to have a conversation. And I will just be admitting people as we go. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. I apologize for my dog. Okay, so we are recording. If you're not one of the participants, I would ask that you please stay on mute. You can have your video on or off. If you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat at any point, or you can put it in the chat at the end or unmute yourself at the end during the Q&A portion. This will be on Vimeo, on our blog, hopefully with a link, and on YouTube eventually as well. And so please feel free to share it. And What Now? Making Space is part of our current show of Karen Tabb's Humanity is Not a Spectator Sport, both of which are open through the 17th of January, 2022. So just a bit about me in the gallery. I'm Christine O'Donnell, and Beacon Gallery is located in Boston, Massachusetts. I opened the gallery in 2017, and we are focused on contemporary art and social justice. This is Humanity is Not a Spectator Sport. Just a quick look at the show that this other show we're talking about this evening is within. And we are doing an artist talk for Karen Tabb tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And now on to McLeana. And she is our curator of What Now? Making Space. She's a curator, a painter, a calligrapher, and a micrographer. She's originally from Massachusetts, but has recently returned from living in Florida. And she's involved with many nonprofits that are focused on art and equity. She's a fellow and art director for the James Weldon Johnson Foundation, a board member for diversity and inclusion at the Museum of Fine Arts in Tampa, an advisor for the Kaleidoscope Project, and has co-founded the Community Art Collaborative. And I'm also so happy to be welcoming this evening. Oh, we'll talk about What Now? Making Space, then we'll be welcoming you, Nayana. So What Now? Making Space, the show that McLeana has curated, is what we're calling a show within a show. And it features a rotating series of works within Karen Tabb's show by artists of diverse backgrounds from around the Boston area, all curated by McLeana. And this is being supported by a nonprofit that we've created at the gallery. And the show is meant to represent what it means to truly engage with the concept of making space for others. And McLeana, I hope you'll go into this a little bit more. This is just kind of a brief overview. Mm-hmm. And now, without further ado, about Nayana Lafond, our artist that we are featuring this evening. Nayana has lived in countless places, but currently calls Central Massachusetts home. She's an artist and curator, and she's been selling her art in galleries around the world since she was 14. She works on themed paintings related to her lived experiences. These range from being a woman of mixed race, a mother, a cancer survivor, a bone marrow transplant recipient, an activist, and so much more. So Lafond considers herself an artivist, and her work has gained recognition widely in the realm of social justice art. So we're so happy to have her as part of this show.
Thank you so much for including me in this show.
I'm delighted. This is the piece, Shiloh in Red. I'm just going to give a couple examples of your work just so people can have an idea of what we are talking about. And then I'm going to hand it over to you two to have a conversation. And I'll just hop in as necessary to chit chat with you guys. So Shiloh in Red is the amazing piece that we have up in the gallery right now. And one of the fun things about it is the day that it went up is also the day that it was featured on the cover of, I believe is it Motif magazine?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so that's been amazing. It's been really a fun week, I think, for all of us. And then I just selected two other exceptional works that from your website. I mean, I was spoiled for choice. So just to give people an example of the series you're working on right now, Kimberly in Red, and then Vanessa in Red, which is a piece that I had the opportunity to see in person, which is really spectacular. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to come back to you guys. I'm also going to hide myself so that you guys are nice and big. And I am going to let you guys have a conversation about the show. And McLean and Nayana, you are both so gregarious, so you really don't need, I think, any more guidance. But if you do, I will pipe up and get involved. But I'm going to mute myself for now and just let you two have at it.
Well, thank you so much, Christine. It has been such an amazing journey bringing all of these conversations together and letting them really materialize into something that's much bigger than ourselves individually. And when I first spoke to Nayana about this concept of a show within a show, I was just hoping that she could see the vision and would join us. And I was so delighted when she said, yes, I'm here for the work. I'm here for the purpose of the work that I'm doing and the communities that I'm reaching out to. So we're just delighted that she's come into the fold of the family and that we're growing and really highlighting all of these different stories. So to kind of dive into our artist conversation, Nayana, we've spoke about being mothers, survivors, working through art as a healing modality. And what I want to ask you first is, when you started process, series of portraits, did you feel like it was something that was healing something within yourself as well?
Yes, that was the original kind of intent with it, because all of my work has that intent with it. It's kind of why I make art, is it's a process of healing for me in all aspects. So through this project, it started out as, I'm going to make one piece, and that will be part of my healing, my normal process of, okay, I'm making this because, I had a bone marrow transplant, so I made work about that to help heal. So it's my natural process to do that. And then it grew from there, and I've kind of gained so much healing along the way. It's become really something that I feel like I'm just so grateful to be doing it, because of all the healing that it's providing me, and other people have told me that it is helping them, at least some people, and that's huge for me.
So let's take a step back. When you started doing your first portrait, and then all of a sudden people started contacting you and asking you to do family members or friends, can you just kind of walk us through that progression of people reaching out and asking you to do these portraits and how they came about?
Yeah. I did the first one, which was Lorena, and then I posted it to the Social Distance Powwow site, which is where I originally met Lorena. And overnight, I received thousands, just thousands of reactions. So I said, I'll do another. And I reached out to Natatne and Yana, which was a mother and daughter pair who I felt a kinship with, as we talked. And so I did their piece and I posted it to the site as well, and had a similar reaction. So what I did was I posted one post that just said, anybody else who wants me to paint yours? And in the first day there was over 25, and it was in my inbox and friend requests and stories, and this is the only photo I have of her, can you paint her? This this is my niece, my sister, my mother, this is the story, can you do that? And I said, well, I can't. I thought I'd do maybe a couple more, but when you get that many and the stories and you start talking to the people and relating, you can't say no to, how are you going to say yes to you and no to you? Oh, your picture is prettier, so I want to paint yours over yours. No, like that doesn't make sense to me. So I decided I'm just going to paint them all, and then they kept coming. So I just kept painting them, and then people started asking for prints and things started happening. So I decided to start doing it kind of as a just as a labor of love project. So now I'm just doing it for free, and I'm painting the people, meeting with the families beforehand, and giving them prints and donating prints. And that's just kind of a rotating cycle of that now. And I'm just writing it and seeing what happens. I don't know how many I'll do. It's probably indefinite.
I think so. I think, what's so important about this show is highlighting the work that you're doing, and that these families are not commissioning you. They're not paying you to do these portraits. This is you finding your own resources to purchase supplies and canvas, and then dig into these stories and create these pieces.
And they're
and so
offering to pay me. They are coming to me and saying how much to paint my family member. And I'm saying nothing to paint your family member, because it would be wrong.
So let's just explain to those who've never heard about you or heard about the work that you're doing. Let's talk about why you feel it would be wrong to ask them for financial compensation. Why are these stories all connected? Why the red hand over the mouth?
Well, the red hand signifies the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples crisis, which goes by other names as well, like missing and murdered Indigenous women, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I like to say people because it covers everyone, because it's really a larger picture, and that the root causes of that. Well, it's surrounded with people who've gone missing, people who've been murdered, people who have experienced those things and somehow survived. A lot of them are tied to substance abuse or domestic violence, or these are really sensitive subjects, and these people are often no longer on this earth. And I think it would definitely be wrong to charge them money to do them, or to give them prints. I've given as many as, I think 30 was the most I've sent so far. And it doesn't seem right, because these are people's lives, and I feel like it's pretty logical why it would be wrong. At least I hope.
Well, it's important for us to share that with the audience that's going to see this, right? And those that are present now, because they don't know. So let's unpack the part of they don't know, and why we have to kind of give them, the details about this work. Why don't we know about this crisis?
Well, I guess the most obvious answer there is just lack of coverage, lack of local and federal governments, both the US and the Canadian, taking it seriously, lack of press. Gabby, who deserved all of the attention and seeking that she received, showed light to the fact that all of these other people aren't getting even a millionth of that. And that's really why we have to do this, because she deserved all of that, and so do everybody else.
Yes, and we have
that's just it right there.
Are you guys seeing the chat?
Is that it? No, I'm sorry, I'm not looking.
That's okay. Yeah, we felt like it's very important for us to unpack this, layer by layer tonight while we have the time. And we are talking about Indigenous women. We are talking about Indigenous people who do go missing and are murdered, and there is no press. There's very little external community support for these families. And so the work that Nayana is doing, she is honoring these families. She's memorializing their family members. She's giving them what little tiny visual justice that she can, right? And so this becomes visual medicine for the families. It becomes visual medicine for the communities. Because when you're in a culture that has been suppressed, that is constantly asked to be invisible, that in of itself is a trauma. the Indigenous community, the communities, people of color, there's many communities, we could list them all. When you're forced into silence and that kind of suppression, there is a collective understanding in the community that we're all suffering through. And so Nayana's work is so important. You're right, Nayana, there is no price tag, and you shouldn't, and it's right that you don't. That is what grants and funding and support is for, right? And so we would encourage anyone that would like to help Nayana with funding and grant support for her to continue to do this work. That's an appropriate thing to engage with and ask her how you can support her, because this work is so important. Let me ask you this, Nayana.
Mm-hmm.
How many have you done thus far?
I just finished my 65th.
It's incredible. It's incredible. What have you learned about your soul, your spirit, your that part of you that has to keep finding resilience?
Well, between this and other things I've experienced and growing through this process, I definitely have felt stronger just feeling the support of everyone and myself, and speak louder and louder and louder and louder through my medium. That has taught me that I'm very capable of being even louder than this. and that feels really good, and it feels empowering, and I hope that it helps other people also feel empowered by it, and that they can get as loud as they want to be in whatever way they express themselves as well.
It's so amazing when you start to find that inner voice. And I find that when we find that inner voice for others, it helps us to have a stronger voice. But if it was just for ourselves, sometimes that's very challenging, right? And we go, no, I want to be humble, or I don't want to make too much of a fuss. But when we start raising our voices for other people, or raising our voices for other people, it's as if we are, lighting this fire within us that continues to grow and get stronger and deeper and louder and more confident, because we feel that injustice. We feel that deep loss.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's being the servant's hands. We are using our hands to serve our community, serve our families, right? Let's talk a little bit about, being seen as an Indigenous artist. Like, growing up, that wasn't a cool thing, right? It really wasn't always the coolest thing to tell people.
No.
There was always challenges with identity and culture. And now, the atmosphere is shifting a little. More people are curious. And how has that been for you?
Well, I've always kind of been on the odd fringes of that anyway, because my work I've never really done a lot of very traditional Native work. So I've always kind of been on the edge of that anywhere, where I didn't quite fit into the expected, Indigenous work. And I also didn't quite fit into what everybody else was doing either. Because, well, my Indigenousness kind of shone through still. And so I always kind of was in that limbo area, but being able to just declare myself has been liberating in a way. And to have other people as well around me, other artists that I know, because there's so many other people who I also see doing that, and standing up and declaring themselves and saying, I'm an Indigenous artist, and I am also, all these, I'm I'm a whatever else artist, like our I think our lives as mothers influence as artists. Our lives in many ways influence us as artists. So that part, though, in the recent years, I've seen both myself and others start coming out of our shell and really breathing and being who we are and not having to water it down, which has really been liberating.
It really is. Well, for a moment, let's just talk about motherhood and being an artist and being a creative. What's some advice that you could give other mothers out there? Because I have spoken with many women that are like, I don't know how you're doing this, Michelina. I don't understand how you're a mom and you're an artist and you're involved in all of these things. And so I think it's quite special that we have kind of figured out the dance of, our lives. But what's some advice that you would give other mothers that are also creative?
Get your children involved in the creativity. Have it be a regular thing in your home that's normal. That's not, you don't go. I can understand if you want an escape to go to a studio, but as much doing it at home as you can, involving them and making it normal part of your life. My daughter does not think it's weird when I'm at the easel that is in the living room. Like, she does not think it's odd. She's just like, oh, great. I'll go play the piano or do my own thing. So I think it's just a matter of making it a normal part of your life and making it a priority and finding time. And there were nights where I didn't get to paint till 10 o'clock and I was live streaming as well. But that's when I started. So it's like, okay, I'll 10 to 12 every night and somehow. So when you're an artist, it's one of those needs, not wants. It's like you need to create, so you make space. So make space, involve your children, make it normal life, and it'll happen.
I agree with you. I couldn't have said it better. Making space, so fitting that you say that, and kind of circling back to Karen Tabb's show about humanity is not a spectator sport, and also making space for, so there's the what's next and what's the what's now. And tell us a little bit about what this experience has been for you now that you and Karen have had time together, that you've really been able to spend time with this current show. What's been some of your reflections on it?
Well, when you first contacted me, I think given the subject matter, as anyone in that position would be, I was like, okay, let's see. And we met and we all met and we had a really, really wonderful meeting that day. We all met together and we did like a group poem and we literally broke bread and kind of just found that area of common humanality. And that was really nice. And then to actually see the work that she made, particularly the paint that she went to the store and had made from her actual skin tone, and the thought that she put into each piece, and that large quilt, that was remarkable. So the pieces, it showed how much time, how much thought she put into it, that she really thought it out and wanted to do her best to both express her feelings and show that she was willing to go the extra mile and encourage others to as well. And that's what I kind of took away from seeing the work and from meeting her. And it was a pleasant surprise. Not that I expected anything bad. I just, when you enter this subject matter, you don't know what to expect. So I was so pleasantly surprised and pleased with the outcome, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody else's work as well in the space and how it interacts, because that was something else that I noticed, because my piece and the piece that was next to it, they actually kind of correlated, her piece and my piece. So it was somehow fitting.
It absolutely was definitely fitting. I like to look at collaborative spaces as conversations. I love having different artists work in the same space to see how those pieces are responding to one another. What is the dialogue and the exchange of energy that those pieces are having? And when I stood in front of yours and I looked over at that piece that you're referring to, and it's a mixed media piece, and there's these leaves that are hand sewn on the bottom, but the leaves are made out of typography. So you can read little phrases and prose on them.
I'm going to put a photo of it in the chat, I think, so everyone can see it.
Okay, good.
Right?
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'll just.
Okay. No, but I just felt like the two pieces were having their own dialogue with each other. And even when I first walked into Beacon Gallery and I stood on that third stair from the bottom, I just let the space, speak to me. And the depth of red all connecting all the way back to the very far wall. There was such a cohesiveness in that space where it didn't feel like there were these individual silos of, well, here's Karen's show and then here's this other show, right? It just felt so interwoven. But I do think it was so important that we all met in person prior. Breaking the collaborative poetry piece, being able to just listen to each other and, oh yeah, that's the piece. Yes.
I tried to I dropped it into the chat, but I realized that's better for kind of like transferring files. It wasn't very useful. So I just so now everyone should be able to see it. This is called The Sacrifice of Our Isaacs. But sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. You guys are having a great chat. Although I might invite you to also see if there are any questions as we're going in a minute as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that, oh yeah, it is a wow. It is a wow. I hope you're able to come down and see the entire show. Well, Nayana, let me ask you this before we open up if there's any other questions from the audience. What is one last thing that you really would like everyone to know about you or your art, your movement? What's one thing you really feel like you'd like to share with everyone?
That is difficult because I've been winging it since day one, by the way. Like just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing this now.
Haven't we all?
Just like, all right, I'm doing a project. I guess it would be that you need to always, you get these things in life that just do pop out of the blue, and I'm really grateful that this one did. And not because of the attention it's gotten, but yes, because that's the mission of it, but more because of the healing that I've gotten from it. Last night I was at the second of 3 art openings I had this weekend, and 2 different people came up to me, told me what the work meant to them, and hugged me and shed tears with me, and I'm really grateful for that. So that's, I guess, that's what I would say, because that is what I'm getting out of it. That's why I'm doing it. So any questions?
I love that.
Sorry, I got trying not to get emotional.
I feel like
absolutely
I've gotten emotional more at the opening and through this than I have at any other of my shows ever, which I think says something to the power of hopefully what we're doing and how meaningful it is. So I thank you guys for being here. Why don't we see if we have any questions before we wrap up here from any of our participants? And feel free to unmute yourselves. You can type as well, but as we're a small group, if you have something that you'd like to say, feel free to just unmute yourselves. We'll give people a moment. And maybe not. You never know. Oh. What is, okay, so I have a message that came directly to me, which I'll just say aloud, which is, what is the YouTube channel this will be recording on? And that will be Beacon Galleries one. So I have mostly been putting everything on Vimeo. And so we have a Vimeo channel that has like a ton of stuff on it, but I realize that no one actually goes on Vimeo. And so I'm going to be putting everything on YouTube as well. So once I get my act together, as we're doing one tonight and one tomorrow, probably in the next week, these will both be on hopefully Vimeo and YouTube. Because I like the setup of Vimeo. It looks very pretty as well. And then do you guys see the question that came to
Yes,
in here?
I do.
Will
First, hi, Darlene.
Read it aloud, just because people who are watching this recorded later will not be able to see the chat, just so that they know what question.
All right. So Darlene wanted to know, have you gotten more non-native interested in the subject at hand? And yes, actually, I've gotten a lot just from showing up places with my art and putting it up, like at like Indigenous Peoples Day and various art fairs, and I've been kind of covertly sneaking them into non-native art shows by just submitting them and getting them in, and it's starting dialogue. And I'd say 80% of the non-native people who come up to me and ask me about my work have never heard of it before, at least. And honestly, maybe 30 to 40% of the native people as well. So that's what I'm finding. Yeah, but it's happening.
I don't know if you saw the other question that came through, and they would like for you to just describe and give us a little more information on why the red hand and what does the red hand mean?
Well, yep, it says, what does the red hand represent overall? So the red hand is the kind of overall universal symbol that's been adopted for the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, people crisis. And I'm not sure exactly who came up with it. I know that Rosalie Fish kind of made it famous by running with it, and she's someone I was fortunate to paint as well. So what it means is it represents kind of simultaneously being silenced and also calling home. And it's red because red is the only color that spirits can see, in at least most native traditions, not all. So that's also why I painted the paintings in black and white, with red being the only visible color. So the red it's symbolic of blood, of being silenced. It's also kind of so that spirits can see it.
Thank you for sharing.
That's amazing. I did not know that. And I feel like I got chills hearing that. So I don't know. I think that's really powerful. And I think it's fabulous that you're sharing this with all of us non-native people as well. And I think that hopefully your message is getting out there. And I'm glad to be able to do just a small part to help with that.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys have done. And just getting it into Boston is a good thing, because just the history of the city and everything, to be able to get the word out there as well, and just keep spreading it is really what I'm all about. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, as we've said in our prior chats, hopefully just the first of many collaborations together, both with you, Nayana, and Macleana with you.
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, maybe we'll leave it there. What do you guys think? Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to give to our audience and the people watching this later?
Just to keep tuning in, to come by Beacon Gallery, and don't hesitate to send out an email to Christine and ask more questions, because Christine can get those questions to Nayana, to myself. And this is really about, educating each other and building community. So please stay connected. And then hopefully we will find some more ways to support Nayana and the work that she's doing. And Nayana, we're just so humbled and thankful for your time, your energy, and your passion, and what you continue to do.